Have you ever stopped to think, really think, about what happens when something as huge as artificial intelligence meets something as fundamental as, well, how we learn?
It's definitely more than just a meeting, isn't it? It feels like a real inflection point.
Yeah,
AI is fundamentally changing education, how we think about credentials, even lifelong learning. It's like we're entering a totally new era.
exactly. And that's why this deep dive is all about navigating that AI inflection point. Because,
Yeah.
when we talk AI here, it's not just another gadget like a PC or the internet was.
Right.
Our sources are showing it's more like a new agent in the whole learning setup. It can create stuff, adapt on the fly to learners, even act like it's having a human interaction.
Right.
That's a massive shift.
And what's really striking is the split potential, the sort of two sides of the coin. On one side, AI holds this incredible promise to make learning super personalized, accessible to everyone, democratized on a scale we've never seen. But then the flip side is the risk. It could actually make existing inequalities worse, creating this complex AI divide.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about who gets the hardware, it's also about who has the skills, the guidance, the critical thinking to use these tools well and ethically.
So that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive, how AI is already changing classrooms, how it's pushing institutions, redefining what expertise even means, the value of a degree.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we'll see the future isn't set in stone. It really depends on the policies, the ethical frameworks we decide to build, like right now.
To really get a handle on that, let's start right where the rubber meets the road in the classroom.
Yeah.
Because AI isn't just theory anymore, it's actively reshaping how teaching and learning happens.
I'm curious about that because for ages, educators have talked about personalized learning, right? Tailoring things to each student. But it always seemed like a logistical impossibility. How's AI actually making that happen?
That's exactly where these AI-powered adaptive platforms are making a difference. They're finally making that vision practical and at scale. These systems look at tons of student data, what they know, where they struggle, the gaps,
Yeah.
and then they offer up tailored resources, activities. Think of something like Squirrel AI's system, ILS. It breaks down subjects into thousands of tiny nano-level knowledge points.
Nano level.
Yeah, and based on how a student does, it creates this unique learning path, constantly adjusting. But importantly, it's always alongside human teachers.
And it's not just the core stuff like math, is it? I've seen things like MindGrasp mentioned, these sort of all-in-one AI learning assistants. What makes them different?
They're incredibly versatile. MindGrasp can whip up notes, summaries, quizzes, flashcards from almost anything, PDFs, textbooks, even YouTube videos.
Hmm.
And crucially, they often have accessibility features built in, multi-language support, tools for students with ADHD or dyslexia. That's a huge step for making learning genuinely inclusive.
What really jumps out from the research, though, isn't just better grades. It's how this tailored approach seems to change a student's whole attitude,
Yeah.
boosting their confidence, making them actually, feel better about education, making it feel relevant.
Absolutely. That engagement, that feeling of relevance is key. And this personalized content paves the way for what many are calling the rise of the AI tutor. Think about it, traditional teaching, one teacher, 30 kids. It's just impossible to give everyone immediate, personalized feedback.
So how good are these AI tutors? Can they actually replace a human?
Well, they provide a very focused, efficient one-on-one type experience. There was this randomized controlled trial, an RCT, where students using an AI tutor learned way more material in less time.
Really?
Yeah, the AI group spent about 49 minutes on task compared to 60 for the control group doing other active learning stuff. But the AI group's learning gains, more than double.
That's startlingly efficient. It almost sounds a bit too perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You wonder, like, what's the catch? Or
Right.
maybe, how does it feel for a student who actually likes human interaction?
That's a really important point. And it's often not about replacing human tutors entirely. Look at the Stanford study on Tutor Copilot. That's an open source AI tool. They found when human tutors use this AI assistant, their students did better, 4 percentage points more likely to progress. And for tutors with less experience, the boost in math skills was even bigger, like up to 9 percentage points.
Ah, okay. So the AI is making the human tutors better, especially the newer ones.
Exactly. It augments their abilities. But, we do need to be realistic. There are nuances.
Like what?
While some reviews show the benefits of these intelligent tutoring systems, ITS can sometimes be pretty modest compared to simpler systems. Effectiveness really hangs on good instructional design, the context, how long students use them. We definitely need more long-term studies. And
Right.
we absolutely have to grapple with the ethical stuff, data privacy, is the algorithm bias, that sort of thing.
Okay, so beyond just automating things or personalizing pace, this is where I think it gets really transformative.
Mm.
The idea of AI as a partner for like creativity and critical thinking,
Yeah.
shifting focus from just the final essay or answer to the whole process of thinking and creating.
This leads to concepts like the pedagogy of wonder. The idea is you don't just ask ChatGPT or Gemini to write your essay. Instead, you engage with it as a kind of thinking partner.
A thinking partner. How does that work?
You use it to brainstorm, to challenge your own assumptions, to see connections you might have missed, maybe explore completely different angles on a problem. It's about fostering that deep critical engagement, not just getting an output.
That sounds way more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give some practical examples? How would that look in a real class?
Sure. In a writing class, maybe you brainstorm plots with AI, then debate character motivations with it, or ask it to rewrite a paragraph in a different style to see the effect.
Okay.
In math, maybe you get stuck, and the AI doesn't just give the answer, but shows the steps, helps you pinpoint exactly where you went wrong.
Mhm.
Or for a project, the AI could play devil's advocate in a debate prep session, or simulate an interview with a historical figure.
Dynamic.
It creates these really dynamic, personalized ways to explore and inquire.
And I could see how that might level the playing field a bit, creativity-wise. Like, if I have a great architectural idea, but I'm terrible at drawing, an AI image generator could help me visualize it.
Mm,
The focus shifts to my idea, my prompts, how I iterate with the tool.
precisely. And that underlines the key takeaway here.
Yeah.
How we implement AI in education matters way more than what specific tool we use. The real learning happens when it's deeply integrated.
Right.
And this builds a whole new meta skill, doesn't it? Effective human AI collaboration. Knowing how to prompt, well, critically judge the output, refine it, that becomes crucial.
So we've seen the potential in the classroom, but changing classrooms means changing the whole institution, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the big hurdles often lie, beyond just the tech itself.
Absolutely. That's the institutional gauntlet we mentioned. These barriers are deeply human: organizational inertia, ethical knots, and the very real issues of cost and environmental impact. It's a whole system challenge.
Where's the biggest sticking point usually? Is it getting the faculty, the teachers on board?
That's often a major one. You see hesitation for all sorts of reasons. Maybe they don't fully understand the tech, they're worried about cheating, academic integrity, or it just feels too complicated to learn.
Yeah, the classic resistance to change.
And the usual approach, the big one-off training workshop, research shows that's often not very effective. What works better is peer-led learning, small groups, building communities where educators can share practices and support each other.
Makes sense.
And there are big efforts underway, like that $23 million project with the AFT, OpenAI, and Microsoft. They're trying to build a national model for AI curriculum integration and train huge numbers of teachers.
That's a serious investment. But training alone won't cut it, will it? If the institution doesn't value this kind of work.
You hit the nail on the head. In academia especially, teaching innovation isn't always rewarded in the same way research is. Institutions need to actively build a culture that values it, offer grants for experimenting with AI in teaching, and critically, make AI-related pedagogy part of tenure and promotion decisions.
Okay, another huge one. Academic integrity. Generative AI has thrown a massive wrench into traditional assessments, hasn't it? Essays, exams, code. Students can generate passable work so easily now.
It's a genuine crisis for assessment, and the first reaction for many schools was, let's get AI detection software, but that's turned out to be problematic.
Oh, so?
Well, these detection tools show some really concerning biases. One big study found they incorrectly flagged over half the writing samples from non-native English speakers as AI generated.
Over half. Wow.
But they were almost perfect for native speaker samples. So relying on these tools, especially for punishment, risks unfairly accusing students and worsening inequities. It's this weird loop of AI trying to catch AI and failing certain groups.
Yikes. So if detection is flawed and AI is everywhere, how on earth do you assess students fairly now?
That's the million-dollar question. Institutions are trying different things. Some ban AI outright, others say use it but cite it, and some allow it only for specific, supervised in-class tasks where you can see the process.
Right.
But fundamentally, the argument goes, If the final product can be easily generated by AI, maybe you're assessing the wrong thing anyway.
Okay. So what's the alternative?
The focus has to shift away from just the end product towards the process of learning. Think dynamic, living portfolios showing growth over time, in-class presentations, oral exams, project-based work where you value the research, the collaboration, the reflection,
Mhm.
not just the final paper.
That sounds like a much richer way to assess, but also probably more work for educators.
It likely is initially. It requires a shift in mindset and practice, but it gets closer to assessing those deeper skills.
But even with these shifts, we have to talk about equity. Is AI creating new divides or making old ones worse?
The AI digital divide is definitely more complex than just having a laptop. First, there's the resource gap. These powerful AI tools, especially the big adaptive learning systems, cost a lot.
How much are we talking?
Tens of thousands for some systems. Hosting a big language model like Llama 3 on the cloud, that can run over $20,000 a month. This immediately creates a tiered system. While well-funded schools get the best tools, others get left behind.
That's a huge barrier right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then there's algorithmic bias. AI learns from data, and that data often reflects existing societal biases, racial, gender, cultural.
So the AI tool itself could be unfair.
Potentially, yes. An AI assessment tool trained on biased data might unfairly score certain student groups lower. AI-generated learning content might be culturally irrelevant or even alienating for some students if the underlying data lacks diversity.
So it's access and the nature of the tool itself.
And there's another layer, what some call the third digital divide. It's not just tech access, it's access to supportive people. Trained teachers, involved parents, skilled tutors who can guide students in using AI effectively and critically.
The human support network.
Exactly. Wealthier students might get both the fancy tools and the expert human guidance. Disadvantaged students might be left trying to figure out these complex systems alone. It just reinforces existing gaps.
And that connects to the AI literacy gap too,
Oh,
right? If teachers in poor districts aren't getting good training, they might fear or mistrust the tech.
Precisely. And layered on top of all this is something often missed: the sheer cost, both financial and environmental.
Right, you mentioned sustainability. How significant is that? I know training models takes power, but
It's pretty significant. Training a big model like Bloom took almost 700,000 kilowatt hours. But here's the kicker. Using the model, what's called inference, can account for up to 90% of its total energy use over its life.
90%. Just from people like me asking questions.
Yeah. One GPT-4o query is tiny, like 0.3, 0.4 watt hours. But scale that up. Daily ChatGPT use globally. That could equal the annual electricity use of around 35,000 U.S. homes.
Wow. Okay, maybe I do need to rethink my prompts. And what about water? I heard something about that.
Data centers need tons of water for cooling. Training GPT-3 reportedly used 700,000 liters of fresh water.
Grief.
And the daily water evaporation from running a major AI service could meet the annual drinking needs of over 1 million people. Plus, the carbon footprint depends hugely on where the data center gets its power. Nuclear-powered France is much lower than coal-heavy regions.
So how does this environmental cost connect back to education and equity?
It spurred the field of green AI. Designing more efficient models, optimizing hardware, using techniques like quantization or pruning to make models smaller and faster.
Okay.
And here's the direct link. More energy-efficient models are generally cheaper to build and run. So pursuing green AI isn't just environmentally responsible, it actually lowers the financial barrier for schools and institutions promoting equity.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Beyond the campus walls, AI's impact is hitting the job market hard. And that's forcing everyone to rethink skills, value, and maybe even the whole point of traditional degrees.
Yeah, this is the idea of the paper ceiling cracking under AI pressure. We're seeing an accelerated shift towards skills-first hiring.
What's driving that?
Well, AI is getting really good at automating those routine, entry-level, white-collar tasks, basic coding, content generation, customer service emails, that sort of thing. Demand for some of those roles is changing.
And it's also making it harder to trust traditional signals like resumes.
Exactly. Anyone can use AI to polish a resume, stuff it with keywords. It makes it really hard for employers to tell who actually has the skills versus who just has good AI prompting skills.
So employers are looking past the paper.
Increasingly, yes. They're moving towards directly assessing skills, hard skills, soft skills, cognitive abilities. AI-powered platforms can actually help do this more objectively and efficiently. Companies using this approach often report better hires, better retention.
But this is a direct challenge to universities, isn't it? For decades, the degree was the golden ticket.
It absolutely is. If the degree is no longer the primary signal employers trust, universities have to ask, what is our core value proposition in this new landscape?
So if the degree's value is shifting, what about the definition of expertise itself? If AI can access and synthesize vast knowledge instantly, what does it mean to be an expert anymore?
That's a fundamental question. Simple knowledge recall. Its value is plummeting. AI can produce work that's factually correct, grammatically perfect, competent.
But maybe lacking spark.
Often, yeah, competent but generic. So true human expertise seems to be shifting from just knowing stuff to mastering the process.
Process mastery. What does that look like?
It means being skilled at inquiry, at creation, at navigating ambiguity, asking the right questions, the deep questions, thinking critically when there isn't a clear answer, reflecting, and crucially, guiding AI tools beyond their default generic outputs to produce something truly insightful or innovative. That nuanced judgment comes from experience, iteration, perspective.
So the expert is less like a walking encyclopedia, more like a skilled conductor or a navigator.
That's a great way to put it. And this changes things for beginners too, right? The whole apprenticeship model.
How so? If AI does the grunt work.
Instead of starting with repetitive tasks, maybe the new apprenticeship involves analyzing, critiquing, improving AI-generated outputs right from the start. It could be a faster path to developing that critical judgment, that ethical reasoning, that unique professional voice, focusing on the human skills AI can't do.
Which brings us squarely back to the future of the university. If degrees signal less and basic knowledge is a commodity, what's the university for? Sounds like a potential legitimacy crisis.
It's certainly an existential challenge. The argument is that universities need to pivot hard, become the absolute best places to develop those complex, uniquely human skills that the AI economy values most.
And that means changing how faculty operate.
Definitely. The role shifts from sage on the stage, delivering knowledge, to guide on the side, mentoring, facilitating projects, designing challenging interdisciplinary experiences, pushing students to think critically.
And the curriculum needs an overhaul, too.
Absolutely. AI literacy has to be foundational for everyone. Not just coding, but understanding how AI works, its limits, its biases, the ethical implications.
And what about the transcript? The list of courses and grades.
It starts to feel pretty inadequate, doesn't it? The future seems to lie more in dynamic, verifiable portfolios, showcasing actual projects, problem-solving skills, collaborations, a much richer picture than just a GPA.
Interestingly, you mentioned this might actually make the physical campus more important.
Paradoxically, yes. For that intense face-to-face collaboration, hands-on building and prototyping, the deep mentorship, those things are hard to replicate fully online. The campus becomes the hub for the highest value human interactions.
So is the traditional four-year degree dead?
Maybe not dead, but definitely being unbundled. Think about what a degree used to package. Knowledge, skills, social connections, networking, a credential.
Right.
AI can deliver knowledge instantly. Online communities provide connection. Micro-credentials offer specific skill validation. So, what's left for the university to uniquely own? Perhaps it's orchestrating those complex, collaborative, project-based experiences that truly forge those irreplaceable human skills. That becomes their core high-value function.
Navigating all this change requires more than just individual schools adapting. It needs some kind of map, some guiding principles.
And what's really striking is how much agreement there is globally on the direction. Big organizations like UNESCO, the OECD, they've all developed frameworks to guide how we integrate AI ethically and effectively in education.
Okay, let's unpack those a bit. What are these global bodies actually saying?
UNESCO has its recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. It's adopted by nearly 200 countries and really centers on human rights, fairness, transparency, safety, keeping humans in the loop.
And they have specific guidance for education.
Yes, they have AI competency frameworks. For students, it's about fostering a human-centered view, understanding ethics, basic AI knowledge, and using AI creatively for problem solving.
Okay, and for teachers?
For teachers, it emphasizes their agency and accountability, promoting ethics, building their own AI understanding, using AI for innovative teaching, and even for their own professional growth.
What about the OECD? I know they focus a lot on skills and economies.
Their AI literacy framework, called ALIT, positions AI literacy as a core skill for all students. It breaks it down into 4 practical areas: engaging with AI, like evaluating it critically, creating with AI ethically, managing AI's actions responsibly, and understanding how AI is designed.
So across UNESCO, OECD, even places like the World Economic Forum, is there a common message emerging?
Overwhelmingly, yes. They all keep coming back to the need to cultivate the human skills that AI can't replicate: empathy, collaboration, ethical judgment, creative thinking. The message isn't how do we make education serve the machines, it's how do we double down on what makes us human.
Which really underlines the need for intentional design, doesn't it? You can't
Sure.
just tack AI onto the old system.
Exactly. Just bolting AI tools onto outdated curricula or assessment methods won't work. It needs a fundamental rethink guided by these ethical
And the
principles.
risk of just waiting.
Given how fast this tech is moving, institutions that just wait and see could find themselves very quickly left behind. There's a real urgency to be proactive.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's distill it down. What are the core strategic recommendations for the different players here? Policymakers, school leaders, educators on the ground.
Okay, for policymakers and governments. First, tackle that new digital divide head on. Fund equitable access, broadband devices, and quality AI tools. Second, champion national AI literacy efforts using those UNESCO and OECD frameworks. And third, set clear rules regulations for data privacy like FERPA and COPA, transparency in algorithms, and mandatory independent audits to check for bias.
Right, the guardrails.
Yep.
And for the leaders within schools and universities.
They need to create clear, ethical, but also flexible AI policies for teaching and research, and really commit to deep professional development for their staff. Forget the one-off workshops, build those communities of practice, incentivize AI pedagogy and career progression.
Yeah.
They also need to actively drive the shift in assessment, move away from easily gamed exams towards those authentic, process-focused methods like portfolios and project work. And finally, think sustainability make green AI, efficiency, and cost key factors when choosing tech.
And lastly, for the educators in the classroom day to day, what's the advice for them?
Embrace being a co-learner. Be curious about AI alongside your students. Frame it as a powerful tool, not a threat to your role. Adopt that pedagogy of wonder shift from just delivering content to using AI to spark creativity, critical thinking. Teach students how to ask better questions of AI, how to critique its output.
And focus on the human element.
Absolutely. Recognize that your most vital contribution is fostering the skills machines can't replicate: empathy, collaboration, nuanced communication, creative problem solving, ethical reasoning. Make those the explicit goal of your teaching.
What a landscape we've covered.
Yeah.
From personalized learning dreams finally coming true to these huge challenges around equity, integrity, and even the definition of expertise itself, AI is clearly reshaping everything.
It really is. And the key thing to remember is that the future here isn't predetermined. It's being actively built by the choices we all make right now.
So, as you think about everything we've discussed, here's a final thought for you to chew on. If AI can increasingly handle the what of knowledge, how will you focus on cultivating the how, the process, the critical engagement in your own learning, or in how you help others learn? And what new definition of expertise will you need to embrace for yourself in this fast evolving world?